everyone, and welcome to Alma Live. I'm Adriana Monique Alvarez, and I'm so excited to be here with you and to introduce this morning in Australia's guest, Pam Foster. Pam, thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, thank you so much for creating this space to bring all of us amazing humans together.
Absolutely. Pam, I know that your official title is you're a career coach, but I would love if you would take a minute and tell us a little bit about who you are, the work you do, your professional background.
Yeah, absolutely. As you said, I'm a career coach. I call myself a professional branding and career growth coach. And ultimately, I get out of bed in the morning to help people shine their personal brand while they can make an impact in the world, which is a pretty cool thing to do.
I love that. And isn't that true? When you really love your work, it's the reason you get out of bed. You're excited to go do your thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think sometimes, when we're caught up in the hustle and bustle, it can be really easy to lose sight of, who am I? What do I stand for? What's my magic in the world? And I feel so grateful that I can help shine a light on that for people and remind them around just how amazing they are.
Yes. And, I believe the first time I saw you was in my LinkedIn feed, and you had shared a personal bit, or somebody I knew must have seen it. I can't remember exactly. And I was so impressed with you because on LinkedIn, you have this very professional persona. You know what you're doing. You create value in your post. And then you also posted something that was very personal and intimate and vulnerable. And I say, first off, not many people do that on LinkedIn, period. And then for you to touch on a topic that I have learned that most people don't want to talk about, and that's stillbirths.
Yeah.
So I was, obviously immediately connected to you and really wanted to speak with you. And also the thing that stood out to me is when you talked about that it's really what cracked you open. And so as we have our conversation, I can't wait to get into what that looked like and your spiritual path through that. Now, we are having these discussions on emotional resilience, and everyone has their own view of it. Everyone has their own definition, which is a beautiful thing. And so I would love for you to share with us how you describe emotional resilience. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I would say that it's the ability to weather the storms of life and being able to transform from that experience. And we've spoken a little bit around, why do experiences happen to us? My view is, and because of an experience that I had a number of years ago, that experiences don't happen to us, they actually happen for us. And what can we learn from that experience?
Yes. What this allows us to do is to, at least for me, I've learned it feels very out of control. It feels very outside of me if I'm saying this happened to me, But when I can see this is happening for me, then it's like, okay, it's not me against this. We're actually on the same side.
Yeah, absolutely.
So weathering life's storms, weathering what life brings. Do you want to share a little bit about your experience and when you really embodied this and learned it and what it looked like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that I learned it the hard way. I always considered myself an incredibly resilient person. However, it turns out a couple of years ago, I was completely blindsided by that. And in particular, a number of years ago, I experienced a loss that completely changed the course of my life. My daughter was stillborn. And the experience of birthing death had the most profound impact on my life. At the time, it was messy, it was ugly, it was emotional, just and incredibly painful. And what I thought was resilience was throwing myself straight back into work a couple of weeks later. And then eventually, when the crazy work hours weren't enough to cover the pain, I then turned to extreme levels of fitness and using substances to really, I guess, hide or mask that pain. And it wasn't until about 12 months later, I really hit rock bottom, and I got to the point where I was sitting in my walk-in robe, contemplating how I was going to take my life this particular night. Which still, still to this day, it's hard to imagine that I was in that place, but I know exactly why. I needed to do things differently, and at that time, it was around giving myself permission to really crack right open. That didn't necessarily happen there and then. It was, it was a process and a journey. However, my experience of having a stillbirth really allowed me to crack right open and go, okay, what is it that you actually need to deal with? What do you need to heal from? And what I realized was that I needed to not only heal from this experience of losing my daughter and the dreams that we had for our family, but it also helped me uncover that there was a lot of healing that I needed to do from sexual abuse and violence earlier in my life that I really hadn't dealt with. And thankfully, I was able to go on this incredible meditation retreat that was a little bit of a taster into this world of spirituality and coming home to yourself. And through that experience, I learned the practices of mindfulness and meditation and yoga and even journaling. And all of these things, they helped me heal. They helped me become a really emotionally resilient human. And I'm so grateful for my experience that allowed me to crack right open. And I'm here today because I gave myself permission to do that.
And I'm so glad you did. And that's been my experience as well, is we can only run or mask or create unhealthy coping mechanisms for so long, and we will come to the end of it.
Yeah.
And we know that it's either I, like you said, crack wide open and allow myself to feel this and to go there, or I don't exist. I cease to exist, because that battle, that running, can only go so far. We can't really, as humans, function in that place forever.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's scary to give in to that. It's scary to give yourself permission to go, I'm not okay, to feel all of the pain, to have the snotty tears running down your face and really go deep into what's the stuff that's scaring you. But once you do, it's a glorious feeling on the other side to just feel that emotional freedom.
Yeah. Yes. And I can so relate, because like you, I had a stillbirth, and I was running a business, traveling full time, had 2 boys, and everything in me was like, if I go too deep into this, I could lose my marriage. I could have a hard time parenting the children I do have. I could lose my business. People could not want to work with me. There was just all of these things. So it was just like, keep marching on. Whatever you do, just keep marching on. So I can really relate to that, because it just felt like at that time I was unwilling to lose anything else.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it
and
was
it's
just
so natural, isn't it? Particularly when it's something that still in this day and age feels a little bit taboo to talk about, because we don't talk about stillbirth.
let's talk about how we don't talk about stillbirth. Because oh my goodness, I would love to hear your experience. So what people, or what indicators, what gave you that message? How did you receive that message? That's what I'd love to hear.
Yeah. I would say that the hardest part for me at the time was I didn't know anyone who had experienced stillbirth. Yes, I had heard of people in my community experiencing miscarriages, but again, still that wasn't really widely spoken about. And the hardest thing was, because it wasn't widely spoken about, I at the time didn't feel comfortable talking about it. And the people around me thought they better not talk about it because she's not talking about it. And it just became this really vicious cycle of silence. Yeah. And in actual fact, what I really did need at the time was someone to acknowledge that, one, I was human and that this was a big deal, and to remember that my life, my child's life mattered. Whether you found out at 6 weeks that you're having a baby, to going full term and delivering a stillborn child. As soon as you find out that you're going to become a parent, that changes things for you. So being able to talk about that, the good, the bad, the ugly, it makes a difference.
It really does. And when you say that, that's where I think it becomes different for people. I noticed even in support groups on Facebook, or elsewhere, if you lost a child and they were an older age, they were not a baby, then it seemed more okay to talk about it or to relive memories. And with the babies, it felt like it was very much dismissed, like it just wasn't meant to be. Like it just doesn't quite count.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? It's like, how can you possibly love someone you didn't even know? I guess is probably the mentality that comes up. Yeah.
Yes. And yet, for the mother who's been carrying this child, the bond is so deep.
Absolutely. And I think one of the other lessons that this whole experience taught me was around the impact for family and friends, but particularly for dads as well. And my amazing husband is just a pillar of strength, who was just there to hold and protect me. And what I needed to do differently was let him know what it was that I needed, because often, dads are there going, I just want to protect and, nurture you, but I don't know what you need if you don't tell me. So, it was such a beautiful lesson to me to go, when you need extra support, when you need a certain thing, don't be scared to ask for it. Whether that is in discussions with your partners or your family or friends. Having that network there that love and trust you makes the difference.
It's so true. And like you said, they really do want to support you, but they don't always know how. They don't know what that looks like for you. And there was something that you said there too. When you could feel that silence and then you became part of the silence, what helped you then break the silence?
Yeah. I think the big change in me was that rock bottom point when I realized I wasn't talking about my experience, and that in order to move through this grief, I had to deal with it. I had to talk with it. And it was letting people in to go, I had this experience. This is how it was impacting me, because people were seeing my behavior and making assumptions. So I just mustered up the courage to just start talking to different friends, my family, and then eventually I wanted to start talking about this more publicly. And social media was a really great platform at the time for me to share my experience, and also provide some guidance to family and friends that were trying to support someone who had gone through that, around, here's some great things that you can do to help. Here's some things to maybe avoid saying. For example, a number of people, without realizing it, would say things like, oh, well, at least you can fall pregnant, or, at least the baby wasn't here just for a couple of days, or, they're in a better place. When really, for me, I was like, a better place would have been me in their arms, or having, them in my arms, loving them here on earth. But it was just little things like that. And, the more that we can talk about it, the more that we rally around each other, it will make a difference. And, I do a lot of work with women who have experienced stillbirth and miscarriages through their pregnancy. And unlike traditional support groups that can sometimes dwell on the experience, my focus is around, how do I help you move through that? How do we guide you out of this experience? And quite often, the women that I'm working with are finding out that, well, yes, I'm healing from this experience, but I'm finding a whole new level of love for life, or this is shaking it up because I need to do something different. And the transformation that you see in these beautiful women is completely inspiring.
Yes, I love that, because it is the truth that at some point we then have to look at, well, what am I going to do with the rest of my life, right?
Yeah.
Is this going to be the only defining moment I have, or is there something more?
Absolutely.
I love this. So tell me a little bit about, the women that you work with and what that looks like. I'm not sure we had planned on talking about this, but I think this is so necessary, because what my experience has been is, truthfully, I didn't know anybody who had a stillbirth either. But then once I publicly said it on Facebook, I received so many messages about that happened to me, or my sister, or my mother. So I've learned that most women who have stillbirths don't actually receive any kind of support. So could you tell us a little bit about what that looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. I offer support one-on-one, and I'm particularly passionate about supporting people in remote and rural communities that can't come together as easily. And even amidst all of the COVID-19 side of things, being able to bring people together virtually online has been something that has been of great benefit. But ultimately what it is about bringing women together to share their experiences in a really safe place, and to acknowledge that what they've been through is a big deal, and show them how to guide themselves out of that. And, that is through practicing meditation, or it might be through journaling, or it might be around, looking at different avenues to release that emotion. But I think more than anything, for the women that I work with, it's really been around finding people that they go, oh, you get it. You've walked this path, and coming together and having that sense of community. And, there's a beautiful lady called Georgia Hansen, who is just truly incredible. And, we share a very similar mission around, opening up those communication lines. and bringing women together after stillbirth. But Georgia has a particular gift of being able to connect mothers with their angel babies, and that has helped me as well.
Do you mind talking about that a little bit? This is something that helped me too, to be able to connect with Nina afterwards. Do you feel comfortable sharing a little bit about what that looks like for you?
In terms of the connection with angel babies, absolutely. I have been very fortunate, and even my husband has as well, that through very deep meditation practices, we have been able to connect with our beautiful daughter. And what has that looked like? It has been through, communication through meditation, messages from our daughter, reassuring my husband that as a family, we're going to get through this. I have a sense that my daughter is around me all of the time. And I even noticed that at times my son will be playing in another area, and we all hear about these invisible characters that young kids play with, and it is my belief that my son and my daughter are playing together. Yeah. So I know for some people that's probably, they're thinking, okay, that's a little woo-woo for me, and it can be really hard to understand that, but it's phenomenal. It's mind-blowing. Yeah. And what about for yourself?
Yeah, I have to say that, on the one hand, it's so easy for us to live in a world where the only things that are real are those things that we can taste and touch, and if I can touch it, if I can see it, if it's right here in front of me, it's real. But I think what happened for me is this realization that the seen and unseen are not really separated as much as maybe we think they are. And while it might seem very bizarre for someone who's never done it or doesn't have a child on the other side, all it is in my view is that they just haven't tapped into that, right?
Yeah.
And I think that that's really the path of being able to connect and to be able to have those sensations. And that's why I think children have them so easily, because they're still very connected to their own hearts and to their intuition and to that part of them, the part of us that is forever.
Yeah, right? You're so right.
So I love that you have that. Oh my goodness, that makes me so happy, because for me that has been a huge help. To my boy, same thing. Like sometimes they'll just wake up and go, I think Nina's in here, or I saw her last night. And for me as well, to hear messages or to receive guidance, it really does feel so good, because like you said, our first choice would be to have them in our arms, to be taking care of them. But at least we have this, and we remember that we're always connected.
Absolutely.
I love this. I want to pop up your website, because I have a feeling that there's going to be women who really relate to this and could use support. Actually, I was just speaking about this earlier in a meeting, that when it happened to me, the only thing I really, really wanted was someone who could be with me through it. Just to not feel completely alone, and to be able to know they get it. And I love that you can be that for women.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And, as I was saying before, it's an absolute pleasure to be working with women and supporting them through experiences like this. And, I would say I'm part career coach, part, mother nurturing guide. So, if people are wanting to reach out, connect with me, maybe unpack their mindset and try and figure out what does their career and a life that they love actually look like, and make that happen, then I would love for them to connect with me. As you've shown on screen, that's the Career Stylr website. And you'll be able to have a little friendly stalk and drop me a line to say hello.
Absolutely. I want to leave everyone with this quote that you had written me that I absolutely love. Resilient people look at a problem and say, what's the solution to that? What is this trying to teach me? And I told you before we went live, I've been having a daily opportunity to do this for the last couple months. And it's true. Even this morning, my husband reminded me, you can choose to be a problem solver today. What's the solution, right? So, Pam, I really appreciate you joining us all the way from Australia, and for living in a way that is so open-hearted.
Thank you. And thank you again for creating this space and being so loving and kind and encouraging everyone to really live by their heart and to make a great impact in the world. You're what making a difference honestly looks like.
Thank you so much. And I honor you and your daughter, the journey you went through, because I know exactly what that feels like. And I appreciate what you do so much. I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight, and to remind you that you can pick up your free pass to my weekly networking group or my free guide to jumpstart your book. Those links are in the description. Until next time, big hugs from Mexico. Stay well. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.